Crowell here from the Royal Oak Tavern. Today we review a porter and ask, is Joe Biden going to go to jail? Hey, good evening, Pigweed.
Good evening, good evening.
All right.
How about some beer and conversation?
Oh, I think that's a great idea. What are we drinking?
Well, Chesterton said, I bet you guys can't tell the difference between a porter and a robust porter. And so we have not one beer, but we have two.
Okay, well, I love that style, so that sounds great.
Very good. What's on your mind?
Well, you know, I'm a little concerned about something.
Yeah.
I went outside and I was looking in the back seat of your car, and littered all over the back seat, I saw these cans of beer, and I saw like cocktail glass. You know those cans of cocktails you can buy at the liquor store. Yeah. I'm wondering, are you drinking and driving?
I know what you're talking about, but I see no evidence of drinking and driving. No
evidence.
No. So let's get on to these beers here, because that's not important. We're just going to move on from that subject.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
That's how it's done.
Let's do it. Okay. So we have two porters.
So last time we were together, I got a robust porter, and we commented on the fact that it wasn't particularly robust. It was robust in flavor.
Yeah.
But you would expect it was a 5.6.
Yeah.
And so this week I said, well, I'm just going to get a regular porter. Well, this regular porter is a 6. So my regular porter is stronger than my robust porter. And I was just wondering, can you tell the difference? And are these things named properly? Are they equally
so that's
robust?
a good question. So we have good old Esmond Fitzgerald here, which of course brings us back to Gordon Lightfoot. The only thing I really know about the Edmund Fitzgerald is that lovely song.
All right, so A Boat Sunk in the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
And
it sounds horrific.
It sounds terrible. Lovely song.
Yeah, great song.
So give that a try there, because that's the regular porter. Mm-hmm. And it tastes great. It's,
yeah, it does taste great. There's a little bit of a roasted barley flavor in there. Mm-hmm.
Now give me what you compared to the robust porter.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm definitely tasting a difference. The Edmund Fitzgerald is a little sharper. It has more of that roasted barley flavor, which typically is more stoutish than porterish. The one that's labeled a robust porter doesn't have that flavor, but it has a deeper, richer maltiness to it, I think.
I'm getting better mouthfeel from the Fitzgerald regular porter. Comparatively, this tastes a little bit thin, and this is the robust porter, which is both thinner and lower in alcohol than the plain porter.
Huh.
Well,
I mean, they're both good.
Mm-hmm.
They're both good beers.
But honestly,
it's really hard to say why one is robust and the other one is not.
And if I were going to go back, Bells, I'm sorry, I'm going with
Great Lakes.
Fitzgerald.
Yeah, Edmund Fitzgerald. Which is a good song too. Maybe we should you drink one of these and listen to Gordon Lightfoot and wish him well.
So the Biden crime family.
Yes.
And somehow you can be accused of things, have evidence provided for you, and you just decide to move on. And as long as you get enough people. As long as you get enough of the right people, then you could just move on and say,
no, that never happened.
There's nothing to see here. Well, there is, but we're just not going to.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to start with this whole thing, except for, can we start with we can go back in time, we can start with the laptop. Where do you want to?
Well, I want to start with just, isn't there something suspicious about these several things that I was trying to put into a diagram. Okay, you've got Hunter.
I love Venn diagrams.
Yeah.
I love Venn diagrams.
Thanks, Kamala. So you have Hunter working for Burisma in Ukraine, which is widely known throughout Europe as being one of the most corrupt countries in Europe.
Yes.
And there was some guy named Victor Slotkin or something like that who was investigating Burisma. Okay.
So right here, like you say, this highly corrupt country, they finally want to address some of this corruption.
So they hire somebody to investigate. Unfortunately, he's investigating the company that Hunter is working for. Joe comes in and says,
what role does Hunter have in this I mean, what expertise is he providing?
Oh, he knows all about energy because he puts gas in his car, once a week.
And his, how about, what does he know? How's his Ukrainian and how's his Eastern European knowledge?
Well, he dated a Ukrainian woman one time.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
That's right. And he took some took some Eastern European cocaine. So he knows.
He's on the payroll.
Yeah.
And it's a sweet payroll too, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like $60,000 a month or something,
Yeah,
right?
it's a whole lot of money. Yes. So here you have this corrupt country, and they're trying to investigate it, but they happen to be investigating the very corrupt company that Hunter is getting money from. Joe Biden comes in and says, cut that out or you're not getting your aid anymore. Now, that's suspicious enough.
Right. And this is not rumored. He's like holding court, telling this great story for everyone to hear.
Can you believe it?
Son of a bee.
Yeah. Can you believe it what I pulled on those guys?
Right. I didn't bribe them. I told them you're not getting your money. It wasn't even his own money. He was giving your taxpayer money.
Of course, they don't work with their own money.
You're not getting taxpayer money unless you do my bidding.
The elite never spend their own money. They're always spending somebody else's money. Yeah. So, okay, you have that circle of corruption right there, which is enough. Isn't it just like, take all that and then say, and on top of all that, we have the Ukraine war where we're pouring billions of dollars into it.
And we often do not know where this money goes.
Well, actually, you're right. We don't know where the money goes. Although sometimes we find out that the weapons that we gave to Ukraine are showing up in Mexico or in Africa or other kinds of places. So, I mean, this is this whole pool of corruption that is anybody going to investigate this? Please?
And, to what degree are we involved because of the dirt on Biden?
Yes, exactly.
So they're like, all right, we know how dirty this guy is.
It's at least a question.
We know how dirty this guy is, and they say, therefore, we need unlimited amounts of money to fight this war. Yeah. However, not all of it's actually going to go to fight this war.
Yeah.
And some of it will probably be funneled back into the coffers of the people who agreed to vote to permit this money.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's send... Doesn't this sound like a
laundering?
If your goal was to launder a bunch of money,
sweet.
Wouldn't sending billions of dollars to one of the most corrupt countries in Europe be like a really good way to do that?
Yeah.
Like you have these back channel things. Like if I wanted to launder a bunch of money, I probably wouldn't go to Sandy Spring Bank and try to, I would probably try to find like some mafia guy and say, okay, I'm going to do business with you and we're going to have this stuff under the table and you're going to give money to my sister and all this, all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and we'll set up some companies on paper.
Right.
That say that, because you just can't
got a guy
millions of dollars show up in your bank account.
Right. Yeah. We've got methods. We've got ways, we have some other ways to move that money around and move it from here to there. So it just seems like, come on, why isn't the media curious?
How uncurious can you be?
It used to be that the role of the media was to shine a light on government, to be suspicious of government.
Hold feet to the fire.
Hold feet to the fire. And now it's like the role of the media is to sing the government's tune. Well, Democrat government, as long as it's a Democrat government, to sing their tune and do what they want. I don't get it.
And so, speaking of evidence, such as beer cans in the back seat,
right?
What if you had a laptop that spelled out exactly what was going on?
I don't see any. I mean, come on. We've got 51 intelligence officials saying that has all the earmarks of Russian propaganda.
Now, so we didn't really get into this, but discuss this before. Were they saying that somebody faked the laptop, fake went in as Hunter Biden, and then fake forgot to get it, hoping that this laptop repairman would then see it and then was this all thought out?
Once again, it's a huge amount of lack of curiousness. Because, okay, so fine. You're going to say that the laptop is Russian propaganda. Okay, fine. You're going to tell us. Where in the process did it become Russian propaganda?
That's what I'm saying. Is the laptop repairman part of the conspiracy, or did some guy come in pretending to be Hunter Biden and say, "I'll just not pick this up"?
By the way, my name is Hunter Biden, the president's son, and here's my laptop.
And I will be back.
And please don't look at the pictures.
Don't look at it, because I will definitely be back in the 30 days, but in which it becomes your property.
Yeah. And by the way, would you like some cocaine?
Yes, and then as the Russians are going, all right, just to spice this up a little bit, let's put some Hunter Biden cocaine pictures on here.
Right.
They were fake doctored photos of not him?
I don't. Yes, but where is the curiosity? I thought that's what reporters were supposed to do. They're supposed to go around.
All they did was say, well, the official report is that all the earmarks,
Russian,
hallmarks, or whatever they call them.
Yeah. Of Russian propaganda, so I guess that's it.
So I guess that's it. Moving on.
Let's go talk about something else.
10% for the big guy.
Yeah. Never mind. Forget it.
So there was it was more than just salacious photos. It was actually information about his.
There were
dealings,
emails.
right?
There were emails in there that made it clear. And then you also got this guy Bobolinsky, which is a fun name to say. Bobolinsky. It's fun. It's a great name to say. This Tony Bobolinsky, who was a partner of Joe and James, of Hunter and James. James is Joe's brother. And he says, look, Biden was completely aware of all these shenanigans, and he was the big guy. The 10% for the big guy, that was Joe.
The idea that you're going to say, I mean, if my son works at the car wash, I'd say, son, how's work today? How's your boss? I would know about his... Yeah. But your son has international, multi-million-dollar businesses going on. We never talk about it.
Never talk about it.
We never talk about business.
And I'm the vice president of the United States, and I'm supposed to know what's going on in Ukraine.
And we're on a plane for 10... I don't know how long it takes to get to China. 10 hours on a plane to go to China.
They're just playing Scrabble.
I mean, what... How is it possible?
No, it's completely impossible.
I mean, either you're the worst dad ever lived, right, or you're flat lying.
The story does not even pass the smell test. But the media fell for it hook, line, and sinker.
No curiosity.
And then it's not just that they fell for it. Because this whole 51 or 61 or 161, however many so-called intelligence officials that came out and said this will blah, 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 blah. That was a talking point for Joe Biden to use in his debate with Donald Trump in the election.
Because Donald's going to bring it up, and I have already gone out and solicited this 51 experts, so that when he brings it up, I can poo-poo it.
I can say.
And lie through my dentures.
Yes. And does anybody really believe that there wasn't somebody at the White House calling around orchestrating this? I mean, come on. Of course there was. But once again, no curiosity. Nobody's wondering how did you come to the conclusion? What do you mean it has the earmarks of Russian propaganda? What does that mean? Does it mean that there are Russian characters every once in a while in the emails? What does that mean that it has a hallmark of Russian propaganda? No curiosity.
Just simply repeat it.
Yes. Just say, okay, fine, as long as it helps our guy.
So in a broad sense, just in terms of general enriching of oneself, isn't this when a guy says he's a plumber making $50,000 a year and he has 3 homes and 3 mortgages and fancy cars, isn't that the kind of thing that you go, that doesn't seem to really add up?
Yeah, that's the kind of thing the IRS goes, wait a minute, something is not right here.
So, but why do we have all these politicians, including Joe Biden, making $175,000 a year, which is bad money, but it isn't? But you don't have millions of dollars in stocks and whatever.
Yeah, I just saw some numbers today.
None of this is getting investigated.
I know. I just saw today some numbers about how much Pelosi makes and her net worth and how much all these different people. And it's like you come into Congress not particularly wealthy, and you're making a good salary, but you're not making tons of money.
But you have to maintain a house in your district and a house in Washington. I mean, hey, things could get a little tight.
Yeah,
doesn't seem too tight.
No, all of a sudden they become millionaires and multimillionaires. And this is why I would like to say, let's just pay all senators and congressmen $1 million a year and say that you don't get any other income.
Well, Singapore does that.
Is that right?
Yes. Apparently they're very well paid.
Huh.
But you cannot make any other money.
Yeah, well, that's the way it ought to be.
Yeah.
I mean, if we paid all of them $1 million a year, that would be like a dust on the scales as far as the budget's concerned. But we would say, okay, but that means we have total transparency into your finances. You don't make any other money. And that's it.
You're
no
the
book
stock
deals,
market.
no speeches. If you're going to give a speech, you give a speech. You don't get paid for it.
Yeah. Right, because that's the thing. So you're right. So Joe Biden will have a ghostwriter write a fascinating book about his life.
Yeah.
And then the teachers union will buy 200,000 copies and stick them in a warehouse.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I mean, that's where he got it. Or, somebody in...
He got it, honestly, by writing a book.
Kazakhstan,
Right.
pays $1 million for a speech or something.
Or he goes and gives a speech in Japan and they pay him $500,000.
So it's not just like money shows up in your account. Although, according to Comer's book, it actually does work that way in terms of if you have levels of shell companies. So all the companies just exist on paper. So, $10 million comes in here and then they buy this thing, but it's all on paper.
I got to figure that out for my business. Like, I got to come up with maybe 10 or 12 shell companies and like move things around from one company to the other. And then like maybe get in the business of selling some art that has like cocaine back behind
I
the
wonder
picture or
how the value of those paintings is doing right now.
Oh, good question.
I have a friend that's exactly what he does. He's in New York and he works
Values
for a company.
Art?
Well, he advises people on art as an investment.
Oh, okay.
And he sent me an article. He's like, dude, I'm in the New York Times. And that's what they asked him about. They said, what will happen to the value of...
What will happen to the value of this art when it's no longer a direct tie to getting favor with the sitting president or vice president?
Exactly.
Right? I'll bet you that they cost about $25 right now. I mean, why would you want a Hunter Biden piece of art? You go and you spend $1 million on a Hunter Biden painting because that means you're going to get to have dinner with Joe,
and hopefully he remembers that you were there. And
right. So we have this question. We have these bank records. It's not just Ukraine. It's not just Burisma. There's also the Chinese stuff. We have the Department of Justice. There's also the IRS whistleblower stuff, where the Department of Justice slow-walked investigations into Hunter Biden's taxes and foreign dealings so that it went past the statute of limitations, right? So there's all these things to investigate.
Right. These things only get 4 years, and then we'll just slow walk
okay.
it.
It'll just take us 5 years to figure out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on. Why isn't there more curiosity about this? Why isn't the left-wing media curious about this? Because they were told not to be.
Right. His family's getting money. I think in the laptop they have Hunter's for some reason responsible for like maintaining repairs on the building a dock onto the house and right. So Hunter's getting and griping about the fact that he's carrying the load of all of the expenses.
How come I have to pay for all this stuff for the family? Well, Hunter, because the only reason you're making that money is because of me.
Right.
And that's your price.
Yes,
that's the price you got to pay.
That's the price you got to pay. You got the 10% for the big guy. You've also got maintenance on the beach house.
And then, so we've already established that there's 100 reasons to be curious about what's going on here. On top of all this, we have Joe Biden's pardons of his whole family.
For anything
they could have possibly
14 years or how you pick this date. Now, it can't be for future crimes, right?
I guess not.
I mean, let's hope. It's like...
Yeah, because otherwise it's just a license to kill, right?
That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
And I don't know how you pick this date, but apparently, according to Comer's book, he's like, you know what? There's still plenty of stuff before that. that we can look into, but only if there's enough actual interest in.
Yeah, I mean, from one perspective, I don't want them to get away with it because they're clearly corrupt, and we need to get rid of this kind of corruption. On the other hand, there's so many bigger fish to fry that I almost don't want them to be distracted by this. I want them to move on to things like, getting rid of waste and fraud in the government and reforming the military
there's also, although Donald Trump is considered to be, a full-blown fascist,
of course.
He, who has said that Hillary Clinton needs to be in jail,
right,
did not pursue that.
Yeah.
And for the reasons that he did not, which is sort of a matter of tradition.
Yeah.
You just don't go after,
right? Because that's what they do.
Even though they did precisely that to him,
to Trump, yeah.
And he doesn't seem like the guy. You wouldn't call him Mister Take the High Road, but
No.
You know what? In a sense, he probably is.
That's the thing about Trump. Does he take the high road in what he says? No, he says all kinds of stuff. He's Donnie from Queens he's talking, but. In terms of what he actually does, no, he didn't prosecute Hillary. He's probably not going to go after the Bidens at all either.
No.
It's like water under the bridge. Move on. Other things to do.
All right. Right. You came after me 5 times. I defeated you 5 times.
Yeah.
Just sit down.
Yeah.
I got this now.
Now
I'm on top.
What he is going to do.
Go retire.
What he is going to do is hunt out the rats in the FBI and the Justice Department who came after him. To get them out.
Totally participated in the
yes, and the reason he has to do that is because those are the people who are supposed to be implementing his agenda, and they're clearly not going to be. They're clearly corrupt, so you got to clear those people out.
Right, so it's a twofer. It's you're not helping, and a little bit of retribution.
Yeah. So there's one other thing I wanted to touch on here, which is the government pressure on social media to push the Biden side of the story about all of this stuff.
Yes.
That if you got on social media and said something about the Biden laptop, then the social media algorithms would, try to hide you or they would shadow ban you, or they would get rid of your post or whatever it was. So the government, here you have this clearly corrupt guy in charge of the government, and he's putting pressure on the intelligence services, on the Department of Justice, on the media, on social media, to put out his perspective on things.
Yeah.
Why isn't he being called a fascist, for heaven's sakes?
That is precisely what fascists do.
Yeah.
That is the hallmark of shutting down, of taking control of the...
all the organs of power and using it corruptly to promote your family's interest.
Yeah, and Zuckerberg just said, that's exactly what was going on, and man's got a business to run. I mean, I had a certain amount of sympathy for that, and then Elon Musk recognized that this was going on. He says, "I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to save free speech by myself." And by Twitter, and he kind of did.
Yes.
And now the pressure is on Europe, who is 100% on board for silencing dissent.
Yeah.
And did you hear JD's speech the other night?
No.
Yeah, he was. So he's out. He's in Europe talking about AI and how
Oh, okay. I knew that he was there. I heard a little bit. But...
Yeah, but essentially he was like, we need to get out in front of this. We need to work together, but your tendency towards
suppression of speech,
yeah, that's not going to work. We'll do this without you. We really, really want to do this with you, but we can't do it if this is your approach to how you treat social media, the internet, and
it's scary.
And AI.
It's scary what goes on. Like you see all this stuff about what goes on in England. About...
God, could you imagine? Can you? Wasn't Kamala? Wasn't she also the AI czar?
Oh, was she? Must have been.
Yeah. And she was in charge of Space Force, the border, and AI. Oh God. Oh, the bullet. Oh, the dodging of the bullets. Can you imagine that creature?
Well, I've got nothing else on this. You got anything else on the Biden crime family?
Well, did Joe Biden pardon himself?
No, I don't think he pardoned himself. And that would have been very interesting because that's something that hasn't been resolved. Can a president pardon himself? Yeah. And that would be interesting to see how that plays out in the courts.
So nobody has done more CYA on the way out the door than Joe Biden. So Adam Schiff.
Yeah.
Who did and who did not? Who's still out there swinging in the breeze?
Well, here's the thing. Since they've been pardoned, they no longer can plead the fifth if they get called in to testify. So if someone were to try to investigate all these things and they called Hunter in to testify, he can't plead the fifth because he can't be prosecuted.
So you either perjure yourself or you tell the truth.
Or you tell the truth.
So there might be a little bit of backfiring going on.
Could be if they actually pursue it. I think it's a stain on the country. I think the Biden crime family, by all rights, in this abstract moral sense, should be prosecuted. But I really think there's bigger fish to fry, and I kind of wish they'd just leave it alone and move on with other things.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would like people to continue to talk about it, just to continue to stain the memory of this horrible administration.
We need to learn the lessons of it.
But as far as actual prosecutions, I don't know. Let's just let's just turn the spigot off of the corrupt money laundering. And let them go out and get honest jobs.
But we need to do like the White House press secretary. White House press secretary seems to be doing. We need to remind the media every single day that you dishonest, lying bastards have been doing this kind of stuff for years. Why should we believe anything you say?
I love this woman.
I know, she's fantastic.
I mean,
absolutely fantastic.
The previous Trump women were all good.
Yeah.
But she's crushing it.
I know. She's amazing.
30.
She's amazing. Okay, I do have a man of the week if we're ready to move on to that.
Bring it.
Okay. So you know that under the Biden administration, trying to follow up on Obama's apology tour sort of thing, they decided to rename Fort Bragg. Because originally...
Yes, my father was stationed or he went to basic training in Fort Bragg.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay. And
North Carolina.
Apparently it was named after some Confederate general who was, problematic in one way or another. And they decided, we can't name it Fort Bragg, so they named it Fort Liberty. And in Trump's effort to, dial back the wokeness, they named it Fort Bragg again, but not that Bragg.
Yeah.
They picked some other Bragg who's like some...
World War II hero.
Yeah, exactly.
And so everybody like my dad, all these hundreds of thousands of people who'd served there who were like, where'd you serve? Well, it's Fort Bragg, but now it's called Fort Liberty. They can still say
Fort Bragg, and they don't have to carry this. Oh, I served at that fort that was named after a Confederate,
which nobody has ever.
Nobody ever cared.
No, right? Like one person even knew that the guy was a Confederate soldier, and the fact, and we ought to talk about that. It's a reconciliation. Not reconciliation. What was the period after the Civil War when we tried
Reconstruction? Reconstruction, right?
I mean, it was part of that. That was part of the Reconstruction. It's like, we're not just going to put our boot on your throats and say we won, you suck.
Lincoln said, "Let them up easy."
Yeah.
Oh,
and I like that. Yeah. Yes. And so that's what that was all about. It was like, look, and yes, you can go have your Confederate Day parades and whatever. Whatever. We're not
going to worry about that because we want to get past all this.
So that's the Reconstruction. Yeah, that's what that was all about. The fact that it was named for him. In the beginning, it was not like, we're celebrating the racist South. It's just like, gotta throw him a bone here.
Yeah, exactly. And, but the guy who came up with the idea of bringing it back to Bragg.
We found a Bragg.
But with another Bragg.
who won Silver Star.
That's right.
And some other things.
He's man of the week.
So who was it? The Pete Hegseth or the guy who came
up with this idea?
Anonymous guy.
Whoever this guy is. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.